Assalamu alaikum and welcome back everyone to the Muhsinaire podcast, where we explore how to build a life of ihsan in our faith, in our family and in our impact. Today's episode is a special one because we're letting you into something that's kind of personal, which we're sharing for the first time, and that is our annual planning, which I guess we can officially call it Muhsinaire annual planning. This is one of the most important things that we do each year. And honestly, it's made such a difference to the way that we live, the way that we parent, homeschool, and even the way that we approach the Muhsinaire brand.
Okay, so in today's episode, we'll walk you through our entire process step by step. And by the end of the episode, you should understand why we created the 5-year plan in the first place and maybe why you should do one for your family. Secondly, we're going to talk about how we break that plan into achievable annual goals. And thirdly, how those goals turn into weekly, monthly, and daily routines. And finally, how planning with Ihsan keeps us aligned as a family.
Yeah, and because we want you to take action as well, we're including a planning template in the show notes, inshallah, which we've created just so that we can show you how we actually do this.
So if you've ever felt like life is just happening to you, or you want to bring more clarity and barakah and intentionality into your home, then this episode is for you.
Awesome. I am excited, so let's dive right in. Okay, so Abdullah, husband, every year we sit down for what's become our annual planning session, right? So let's start with the why. Why did we even start doing this?
Okay, so I think I talked about this already, but it's mostly just realizing that we don't want to be reactive. We want to be intentional. And we read books and did some research, and there's that saying, what gets measured gets done. So it felt like we weren't really measuring anything, and we were just kind of trying our best, but the effort was not challenged. We wanted also more alignment between our deen, family life, and work and wealth and things like that. And then the concept of this ihsan, like how do we give our best into everything that we're doing. And again, just to be clear, it's about channeling your efforts and trying your best. It's not about perfection. It's not about being better or comparing yourself to anyone, but it's just knowing that you've tried your best.
Yeah, and I think this is reminding me of the hadith where the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he said, tie your camel and put your trust in Allah, right? And so, yeah, everything just comes together from there.
Okay, so second question I'll ask you. So Maryam, a lot of people plan year by year. So, there's that concept of what's that thing called? Resolutions? New Year?
Oh, yeah.
New Year resolutions or whatever. Okay, so a lot of people plan year by year, but why did we stretch ours to 5 years?
So I think generally, long-term versus short-term, I think that's a big thing that we had in mind. By the way, I think I remember where we were the first time that we did this. We had, it was you who started it, and so we went out. I think we had breakfast that day, like no kids. We were in Nigeria visiting, and then we went to an office space, like we were actually, for real, subhanallah. We had our board and everything. And so anyway, so that was very long-term thinking and not at all short-term, because if it's long-term, you know that you are continuously working and striving and trying your best to get to a destination. And then the other part of it is just that long term, it really helps with that alignment that you were talking about of like, okay, our deen, our career and everything. Again, just so that we know that we're moving in the right direction. And even if we're stumbling and falling along the way, we know that we're getting back up and we're continuing to move in that direction towards that goal, towards that vision. For example, with Quran memorization, it's something that we've been working towards for a long time. It's just become such a core part of our lives, because even with the moves and the transitions and the different teachers that we've had, we stop, but then we get back up and then we keep on working towards the same thing.
Okay, and then for me, it's also like this is what I do at my job, right? Like, I'm the one who sets the strategy, and I turn that into a roadmap. So there's this concept in software product management they call a North Star. So usually a product is supposed to have like a North Star, and that's like your long-term identity, and you're always working towards that. So everything that you do should get you closer to the North Star. And then from that North Star, you take it and you break that down into like OKRs, so objectives, key results. And then you take that and you break it down further. So the idea is that everything you're doing should somehow contribute towards a higher level objective, and all of that culminates into your North Star. So I'm like, okay, why not apply things like that into my life as well? So, because these are things that have been proven through research that they work, right? So that's kind of my take on it.
Yep. Amazing. And I like the North Star thing because for us, it sounds like the word Muhsinaire is a North Star. And also, like, just generally as Muslims, just having the hereafter in mind, having the meeting with Allah in mind. So,
Okay, so I would say, looking back, it's worked. And as we go through the discussions, I'm sure you'll see what I mean when I say it's worked. So let's move on.
all right, awesome. Next question is when we do have that 5 year plan and that 5 year picture, how do we turn it into something that we actually live day to day?
So I would say before that, you take that 5 year plan and you want to break it down into, first of all, like just 1 year, like what's my goal for the next year. So it's, end of the year now, and now we're planning for 2026. The idea is you take your 5 year plan, and then out of that, you carve out what should be my goal for just 1 year. Everything in that 1 year goal and 1 year plan should take you closer towards your 5 year goals, right? So this is a way you kind of balance between the big dreams and you're getting closer to like a more of a grounded execution just for 1 year. So a real example that we can give here is, so like one of our 5 year goals, especially for me, was just entrepreneurship, because I've kind of been an employee for a long time, and alhamdulillah it's gone well, but I always just had this at the back of my mind that I want to try entrepreneurship, and I know that if I don't try, I will regret it. So we made that into a goal in our 5 year plan, and then kind of started to ask ourselves like, okay, what should that thing be? And we read some books. So there's one book in particular I remember, Essentialism by author Greg McKeown. And it really helped us kind of synthesize what is it that we really want, because time is limited, right? You can't do everything. So we asked ourselves questions, for example, like what would we do if money was not a factor? Like if we had billions in the bank, what is it that we would do that would bring joy? And again, going back to my work, there's many, many stories of people who create companies. They sell those companies for millions and millions of dollars, but then they always try and go back and create another company because like that's when they were the happiest. So what is that kind of work that I would do that would make me super happy, that would make me aligned, so that I wouldn't feel like burnout, basically? So how do we align money and interests and family and all of that so that we would work on what is essential to us? So back to that concept of essentialism. So another thing you could do here is, again, you're talking about just 1 year out of 5, right? So again, from my experience is that there's a lot of opportunities will come your way, right? So you need some sort of framework to be able to say, how do I say yes or no to certain opportunities when they come? Because everything that comes will also require your time, your focus. So I was kind of struggling because a lot of things were coming my way and I didn't know whether to say yes or no. So it's like, okay, if you have that 5 year goal, 5 year plan, and then anything that happens in the next year, you know whether you can say yes or no to it, because you can ask yourself, is it bringing you closer or further away from your 5 year plans? So, yeah, these are the things that come to mind.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think there's also maybe like space for flexibility. So even within the 5 year plan, like everything that's on our 5 year plan, I would not say everything is rigid and like, 100% these all have to happen, because yeah, that's just not that's not just how life works all the time. And so, even though yes, direction and North Star and everything, I think it's also important for us to, when you were talking about opportunities, that's what I was thinking about, because some opportunities come and they're not on your 5 year plan, but then they take you even like to your 10 year plan, for example, and so yeah, just the importance of being flexible as well.
Also, so the 5 year plan is more like a vision, right? It's not prescriptive because obviously it's, 5 years out. You don't know what's going to happen. So you create it more like a vision or an end state, so that through the years, what you will find and what we have found is that there's many ways to achieve that state, that desired state and that vision. And sometimes these are things that you wouldn't even think of. But when the opportunity comes, you assess it and then you'll see whether it's bringing you closer to your end state or not. One of our goals, for example, was that we wanted to pay off our mortgage. So we wanted to pay off a mortgage because, we just didn't like that debt hanging over our heads. So we put that as a goal for the long term. But then through the years, what we've found is that actually there's many ways that you can approach that. So one way, for example, is just get out of the debt. You don't have to finish paying it off. You can just get out of it. And that's one solution. Another solution, of course, is like you save up or you channel your finances or you sacrifice in other ways so that you can pay off that mortgage, for example. But I guess my point is just that solutions will come in ways that you may not expect. But as long as everything is aligning towards your long-term goals, then it should be fine.
Yeah, I think dua has a lot to do with it here, because I remember the mortgage days and just, making so much dua for whatever is next. We definitely did not want to have that hanging on our heads, but then, we didn't stop trying. So yeah, we did have the plans and we did have the, we would be here by this time and we would be there by that time. But of course, Allah had other plans, and alhamdulillah. Yeah, alhamdulillah.
Okay. So moving on, now how do you take that annual plan and convert it into monthly, weekly, daily systems? So this is where I think a lot of people get stuck. So how do you, Mariam, for example, how would you take those yearly goals and make them real in our daily lives?
Okay, so I think for you and I, like what has worked for us is, so let's say it's January 2026 and we're sitting down to do our planning. One thing that we would do before we, close our books or whatever, is we leave with a quarterly plan. So this is exactly what we're going to be focusing on for the next 3 months. And then we, again, don't just leave that there. We're like, okay, if one of the things we want to focus on is, I don't know, maybe something to do with savings, every week in that quarter, one thing that we would do is we would have check-ins. If it's something to do with the kids as well, maybe homeschool, maybe some activities, maybe Quran, we would have check-ins. And the idea behind that is just to have these goals, turning them into habits, right? And then those check-ins are like reflection points as well. So if maybe something is not working out, so maybe, for example, one of the kids, we have a teacher for the kid, like a tutor. If it's not working out, we're just like, okay, yeah, that's not working. Let's try something else, But then if it's going well, we're just like, yeah, we'll just keep going. And even at the end of the 3 months, if we find that something that we're doing is actually, sticking, we just keep going. There's no need to, change or anything. The other thing, which is super exciting, is we use the Ihsan Habits app. And the way that app, I think the way that it happened was, I'm remembering it as me wanting more consistency in our homeschool life. Like that's actually how it was born. And me just, using like sticky notes and notebooks and just all sorts of reminders around to help me get on track, to help the kids get on track with those big, quarterly and yearly goals, but then not really being able to stay consistent. And then you being the tech person that you are, you're just like, okay, I think we can, use an app for that. So that's been amazing. But then that it has actually really, really helped change so many things in the way that we homeschool, because, and just the way that we do life generally, honestly, because we have the app that we use. The kids love it because it's like built for them to be able to engage with. And so at the start of the day, they check and they know what they have to do every single day. Again, that's just keeping the big vision in mind, right? That's even how these things got onto the app to start with. And so, so they have that, just to make sure that they are in line and even myself as well. So anything else you want to say about the app?
Yeah, so I think for me, even the app, it was an opportunity to, again, address some of those long-term goals, right? Because it's like, okay, here's an opportunity. And some of the books that we read, I read, for example, that I loved, what was it called? The Millionaire Fast Lane. That's a really, really good book, because one of the things they talk about in that book is how to spot opportunities and turn them into, businesses. So a lot of these things started, things that we would read and watch and so on, started coalescing into action plans. And another thing I would say is just giving things timelines, because now it's in the 5-year plan and now it's in the 1-year plan. And now we're talking about like monthly what we need to do. So I kind of had more incentive to actually go out and do this thing instead of just keeping it as a to-do list for the longest time. We always say just do things, right? Like just go out and do things. Like it was really scary to even start with this, but this is what we want to embody and what we're trying to learn from people and the guests we'll be having on the podcast here is this people that end up doing things and building amazing things. They're no different from us, right? So another thing that we wanted to avoid was just overloading our daily, monthly schedules with a lot of good things instead of essential things. So I really like this idea of breaking a year into quarters. And it doesn't mean that some things are only limited to the quarters. They can, of course, continue through the year. But the idea is each quarter you want to limit and target your focus so that, you're not all over the place. Any thoughts on that? I know you have a bit of a system.
Oh, yeah, I do. But no, this reminds me of what you said earlier about something measuring, like something that you measure and things like that. But yeah, I do actually have a whole system that also was built out of my own frustration around other parts of my life and just wanting to be grounded, consistent, and to show up properly, which I have a name for. It's not the fanciest name, but it's called the 12-week Dua Challenge. And the idea behind that is, okay, so say you have maybe, you've sat down, you figured out what it is that you want to work on, what it is that you want to focus the next quarter on, again, 12 weeks, right? You take those things that you want to focus on and then you break them down into your action, and then you build in accountability as well to make sure that you're doing the things that you've said that you're going to do. And it's been amazing. It's actually an online course. I'm taking a break right now, but inshallah plan to have that up again, maybe around Ramadan, maybe after Ramadan, just so that I'm not too busy during the month of Ramadan. But yeah, that's been really, really helpful. A few sisters joined me on the course the few times that I've hosted it. And alhamdulillah, it was good feedback, alhamdulillah.
Yeah, so I think that's powerful. So you're aligning your day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month actions, and then all of that is channeling towards your long-term goals. So I think that's a recipe for success if I were, to ever think of one. So moving on, next question to you is, how do you feel if you have a goal you work towards it, you make dua in the best way that you can, but you ultimately don't achieve it.
So the thing is, we have found ourselves there many times, and if I'm being completely honest, it is not the best feeling. And so, if there is anyone who's listening and like this makes sense to you, it's something that you've experienced as well. First things first, you're not alone. I think everyone just has something more that they want for themselves. And I have actually met people who've been like, oh, I don't need anything, I'm good, Allah has given me so much. But then in my head, I'm going, but I think maybe there's something more that you want for other people in your life, like your loved ones, for example. And so, real quick, I would just say three things about this. First things first is, okay, yes, we want these things, right? These things that we're making dua for. But then at the end of the day, Allah is the most wise and Allah is the most knowledgeable, and He knows exactly what's best for us. It sounds shallow if we don't know exactly who Allah is. And so I think this is where our focus should be, actually, not just, when we have a dua that we feel is not answered, but just as Muslims generally, like, we do need to have a deep understanding of who Allah is, so that we are not, I don't know, surprised, disappointed, or, broken hearted, etc., so badly that it even maybe takes us away from worshipping properly. I don't know. But then we need to know who Allah is, so that we are able to just be understanding and just be okay with the way that He does what He does, right? The second thing I would say about this is, I've learned to just upgrade your dua and upgrade your action steps. So if you feel like you're waiting for something, you've made lots of dua for this thing, it's still not here, upgrade your dua. What else would you want to ask Allah for, keeping in mind that He owns everything that's in the heavens and the earth and all that's in between, and also upgrade your action steps. At the end of the day, it's not really about us and what we do or don't do, it's about Allah and His power. But then at the same time, what we said in the beginning is tie your camel, the hadith, right? Tie your camel and put your trust in Allah. So that's important as well. Then finally, I think here, this one is 1,000%, just like everything else we've spoken about, honestly, 1,000% a reminder to myself first, which is gratitude. Gratitude is so powerful because sometimes we wait for that one thing that we forget. And I think you remind me of this actually quite often, or we remind each other, I think. But sometimes we forget that where we are right now is where we've been praying to be for so long. But then maybe like there's just one piece of the puzzle that has not yet arrived. And so sometimes we get frustrated and impatient because we feel like, because we don't have that one thing, we're still not there or something. But yeah, it's so important to remember that things that we do have, once upon a time we were making so much dua for, right? And so many things that we never even made dua for. So it's important to just stay grounded in gratitude, because then, okay, part of gratitude is using the blessings that you have in the right way, right? And so the other side of that is making sure that we are doing the right thing, staying away from sins. We don't even know what it is that could be blocking, for example, the answer to our dua. So yeah, gratitude.
Yeah, and I think if you actually do the work, you plan it out, you channel your efforts, and you do the dua, I find it's rarely going to go to waste, right? So if you're like praying for a better job, so that you can improve your finances and so on, and you're taking actions day to day, week to week, month to month, so that means you're like upskilling yourself, you're learning new things, you're networking, like all of that is not going to waste, right? So even if you don't end up finding the job that you want, or the pay bump that you are looking for, like all of that is skills and stuff that you've kind of you've learned, right? So all of that will remain with you. Even we talked about things like hifz and seeking knowledge, and none of that is going to go to waste. Even if you don't memorize like all the portions that you wanted to hit, you've done a lot already. So I think the journey is important. Again, it's not the destination, it's just the journey. And I heard this and it always stuck with me because it really resonated with me. It said anxiety, that feeling of anxiety is a manifestation of your unfulfilled potential. So if you deep down know that you can do more and you're not acting on it, there is this anxiety that really comes, and I felt that a lot because like deep down I know that I can do more, but I wasn't doing it for whatever reason. So even if it means that that anxiety goes away because you know that you've tried your best, that's still something. So I really believe the journey is important, and whatever you pick up in that journey is not for waste. So yeah.
Yeah, I was talking about this anxiety thing recently with a friend of mine, and what we were saying is sometimes that anxiety, like we try to fight it, but it's actually there to tell you to keep going, right? It lights a fire under you. Okay, so next question. What mistakes did we make early on? What are the mistakes that we've made, but then we've learned to avoid?
So definitely I would say like planning too much, too fast, and just burning out, because it's easy to feel productive when you're just busy day in, day out. But if it's not channeled properly towards your actual goals, I think you'll look back and maybe feel a little bit of regret because you kind of were spread too thin. The second one I would say is just not reviewing regularly enough, because if you just do the plan at the beginning of the year and you forget to check on it, and then you check 6 months and you're like, oh, I'm actually quite off the road. And this has happened to us actually. But sometimes we'll be even pleasantly surprised because we've not checked the plan in 6 months or so, and then we're like, hey, we're actually doing that thing. Even, yeah, we've even, I think, gone more than 6 months sometimes without checking the plan, but we'll still look it up and be like, hey, we just did that thing. So if you do it right in the beginning, I feel, you really, really take the time to think about what is it that you want and what is essential, not just what is nice to have or what is good or what other people are doing, but what is essential to you. It almost becomes a part of your subconscious. And then again, another thing is just around flexibility. Now, I think I've always kind of been good with this one. Like I just roll with the punches, and I take risks, I think.
You do, yes.
I take a lot of risks, and I'm not afraid of risks because
Oh God, you're not. Yes. Oh God.
I think, alhamdulillah, I think for me, I'm like, yeah, why not? I look at why not rather than why, as long as it's aligned with the goal. Like I'm not afraid of it because I really believe that I can, or I always try and tell myself, like, I can do anything I put my mind to. So yeah, so I think these are the ones that come to mind for me.
So yes, on you taking risks, 100% yes. I'm the opposite, but then I'm happy, alhamdulillah, I guess, to roll with the punches with you because I hear myself telling the kids, you can do it. Like, just set your mind to it. Whatever you set your mind to, you can actually do it. Even though, like, for my own self, I have so much fear and, I'm not fully there yet, but then I'm learning and I'm willing to learn.
We used to have this saying in the house where we would say everything is fixable. So if they're crying over a broken toy or anything really, we just say, yeah, everything is fixable. Even if we can't fix that broken thing, we can find a replacement. But I really want us as a family to embody that whatever happens, like we'll just adapt. Like there's no point crying over spilled milk. Yeah, just go out and buy another one or make another one or make another drink or just clean it up and move on.
Yeah, that figure it out mindset, right? And I think, yes, what you were saying earlier about not reviewing our plans at the end of every quarter, at the end of every week. I remember when we sat down for the 2025 one, it was because we had a busy year or a busy 6 months before we sat down for that. And so it was so interesting to we just kept on putting check marks, right? Check mark, check mark, check mark, even though things were, busy and kind of all over the place. So yeah, alhamdulillah. So let's say someone is listening and is ready to get started with their own yearly plan. Where would you say they should begin?
Yeah, start with your why. Do a deep reflection. Try and figure out what you want, maybe it helps to kind of think about it in the way that we kind of broke ours into faith, family, and impact, the Muhsinaire pillars. So yeah, you could use that structure, but really it boils down to why and what your goals are, and really just trying to paint a picture, a vision of where you would want to be in 5 years. Try and immerse yourself in that vision, and then just sit together with your partner, your wife, whatever, and take some time away from screens, take some tea, coffee, get a notebook or a whiteboard. We actually did ours in Miro, so we kind of had a projector, and there's this collaboration website called Miro. It's basically just like a whiteboard, and you can work together, dragging stickies and filling out templates and things like that. So again, we will have our own template in the show notes. We'll attach that, and you can download that, and that should be able to get you started.
Again, you don't have to use Miro, pen and paper, whiteboard, anything. The other thing is, so you want to write down those, those things that whatever comes up, actually, it's like a huge brain dump, right? And then if you want, you could write down the dua that you want to make as well for these things. And then, of course, keep it simple, inshallah, as much as possible. Remember the North Star thing. And then as much as you can, have like a maximum of 3 main things that you are working towards for like the year or the quarter, and then make sure that you have a system to like review and check in and things like that. And honestly, at the end of all of this, the main thing is the striving. Again, I think we spoke about how it's not the destination as much as it is about the journey, and so inshallah, as much as you can, keep that in mind.
The only thing I would add is we started Muhsinaire, and everything we try and talk about is about action. Done is better than perfect. So just go out and do something, put the plan together, no pressure on yourself. Honestly, I think you would be surprised by how much you will achieve if you just put the plan together. It might sound scary, like I'm going to have these big goals and then I may not be able to achieve them. But as we said, because you're translating those goals into daily habits and action items, you will grow regardless. So watch out for our Ihsan Habits app, which again is an app we built especially for the family and the kids, to get them into these routines and get them into these habits that ultimately stack up to the goals that you want to achieve. Hope you enjoyed this one, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Don't forget to subscribe and like and all the things, inshallah. Oh, and share. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. From our family to yours, thank you for being here. This journey of Ihsan is not one that we can take alone, so let's keep learning together, inshallah. If you enjoyed the podcast, please give it a rating and share it with your friends and family and anyone you know who might be interested.
Subscribe to the podcast. Join us at muhsinaire.com to continue the conversation.